On January 25, 1477, at the Château de Nantes, Anne of Brittany was born to Francis II, Duke of Brittany, and Marguerite de Foix. From the moment of her birth, her destiny was entangled with the future of a duchy that France long coveted. Brittany, rich in culture and resources, stood as the last autonomous region resisting the centralization of France under the crown. Her father, Francis II, spent his life battling to preserve this independence against increasing French pressure. King Louis XI of France made no secret of his ambition to bring Brittany under French control. Anne's childhood was marked by diplomacy, danger, and political training. Her father ensured she received an exceptional education: Latin, French, Breton, Spanish, history, law, and political science. She wasn't meant to be just a duchess. She was trained to rule, to preserve, to fight. But at age 11, her world shattered. Her father, the last shield against France, died during a military campaign in 1488. Though rumors of poisoning circulated, no proof emerged. What mattered was the consequence. Anne, just a child, became sole heir to Brittany. Her regent, Marshal de Roux, was more interested in his personal gain than Anne's welfare. European monarchs soon circled like vultures. King Charles VIII of France, Maximilian of Austria, and Ferdinand of Spain all saw Anne as the key to annexing Brittany. In 1489, Marshal de Roux betrayed Anne by entering secret negotiations with France. Anne, however, discovered the plot. At just 13, she made a bold move. She married Maximilian of Austria by proxy. It was a political maneuver meant to secure Brittany's independence. But it provoked France to action. Charles VIII, furious, declared the marriage invalid and launched a brutal military invasion of Brittany. French troops laid siege to Rennes in 1491. They burned villages, executed Breton nobles, and unleashed terror. The young duchess watched from behind the city's walls, helpless. Her legal husband, Maximilian, was embroiled in conflicts in Italy and could not assist her. Betrayed, alone, and under siege, Anne faced an impossible decision: resist and let her people die, or surrender and sacrifice her freedom. In December 1491, at just 14 years old, Anne surrendered. She agreed to annul her marriage to Maximilian and married Charles VIII of France. The wedding at Château de Langis was not a celebration but a surrender ceremony. The French imposed brutal terms. Anne was forced to sign documents handing Brittany to France, erasing centuries of autonomy. She was forbidden from speaking Breton, from using Breton symbols, and from contacting nobles loyal to her duchy. Her correspondence was monitored, her every move watched. Charles VIII treated Anne more like a prisoner than a queen. During their marriage, she gave birth to several children, all died young. Court rumors whispered of poisoning, part of a plan to prevent any future heir with legitimate claims to Brittany. When Charles died suddenly in 1498, Anne briefly hoped to return to Brittany and reclaim some power. But that hope was extinguished when the new king, Louis XII, annulled his existing marriage to marry Anne. In January 1499, she was once again forced to the altar. She was now a widow queen made prisoner twice over. This second marriage was even more humiliating. Anne now fully understood her role, not as a queen, but as a political asset. Louis XII continued Charles's policies, erasing Breton culture. Anne was forbidden from supporting Breton art, music, or literature. Despite her captivity, she secretly funded scribes to preserve Breton texts and paid artists to carry on traditional styles. Her resistance went underground. As queen, she was forced to attend events, entertain ambassadors, and smile. Any sign of sadness or protest was deemed treason. Behind the golden facade was a woman breaking piece by piece. She had become the living symbol of a duchy swallowed whole by French ambition. Despite all, Anne of Brittany gave birth to two daughters who survived: Claude, born in 1499, and Renée, in 1510. But even motherhood offered no solace. Louis XII insisted that Claude marry his heir, Francis, ensuring Brittany would remain in French hands. Anne pleaded to preserve her daughter's rights to Brittany, to allow her even a sliver of her native identity. She was refused. Her daughters were raised as French royals, far from the Breton customs Anne so cherished. From 1512 onwards, Anne's health declined. Doctors speculated many causes, but among the Bretons, it was simply called death of the soul. She had watched her duchy vanish. Her children's futures were hijacked. Her culture mocked, and her freedom extinguished. Yet, she never gave up hope. Anne began preparing for her funeral, hiding Breton symbols and flags to be buried with her. It was the only way she could reclaim her identity in death. On January 9, 1514, Anne of Brittany died at age 36. Her final words were not of forgiveness but of warning, a plea that her daughter Claude never be forced to suffer as she had. Anne's life was marked by extraordinary tragedy. She was born to rule a free land, but instead became Europe's most tragic political pawn. Her marriages were weapons, her crown, a cage, and her reign, a slow crucifixion of her soul. Yet even in her final breath, she never surrendered entirely. She remains a symbol of defiance. A woman who endured betrayal, humiliation, and loss, but still dared to preserve her culture in secret. Anne of Brittany's legacy endures as a dark tale of medieval politics and a brilliant flame of Breton resistance that refused to die. You've just witnessed one of the darkest punishments in history. But many more still lurk in the shadows. So if you dare, subscribe to Torture Vault, where every scream from the past still echoes.